flood of reaction. The map you have on your tables is a map of shame. There are 34 to 40 states with some form of a plan to diminish the Voting Rights Act. And we should have someplace, we don't have right now a bigger map, but you guys, I think you can blow up. And so while, if I'm in Florida, everyone thinks that what you're looking at is unique to Florida, it ain't. If you're in North Carolina, they think it's unique to North Carolina, it ain't. There is a fierce reaction, a backlash to 50 years of social justice struggle, and maybe in particular to the election of 2008. And while we are at best responding to it district by district and sometimes state by state, there's a toxic wind blowing across the country. The element that will hold up the entire federal budget over Planned Parenthood. The entire federal budget over a woman's right to self-determination. All who would make an artificial argument, something called the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling has been raised 75 times since Kennedy was president, 39 times since Reagan was president, 7 times during George Bush's presidency. But now they're making this a showdown so as to really embarrass the president and make the government dysfunctional. The stakes are extremely high, and the scheme is very well organized. And there are those in this extreme right wing who would use kamikaze politics and take a nosedive and destroy all of us and sacrifice themselves as some badge of honor. After all, this is for them a civil war fight. For us, let's just say, is a civil rights fight. But this is the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. They'll be replaying the Civil War all over again in the next 4 years. This battle for the soul of America, states' rights are a more perfect union. The war was fought over slavery, but about states' rights to control the process of voting, and workers' rights, and women's rights and the environment. So when Bona says, as he did the other day, this fight, President, we just played golf together, we met together. This fight is not about personality, it's not about politics, philosophy, it's about something more dear to us than that. This is an ideological fight. This is a fundamental idea to how we see America. States' rights versus federal rights. And for us, states' rights were states wrong. After all, Rosa Parks broke the Alabama state law. The Birmingham movement was challenging the state law. The Voting Rights Act was state law, which required federal intervention to break up states' rights oppressive schemes. Say states' rights. And when Dr. King called upon the feds to intervene to stop state oppression, that violated their sense of who they were. So George Wallace could block a school door, so I'll only move the feds, make me move. He won that battle psychologically, he lost politically, at least short term. States law. So what you see happening in your state and Minnesota and Wisconsin, Indiana, is a states' rights struggle. The other day when Paul Lynch said, we have to watch this language, that's why we got to revisit ourselves this whole Civil War issue. So, well, we'll trade off the ceiling if we can get a balanced budget amendment. Like we pay our own bills at home, which is a false analogy. They're really saying, let's weaken the federal government. Weaken its ability to fight states. This is a civil war struggle. Only the federal government can invest in wars, or do trade policy, international policy, and the like. And when states violence, the federal government must be strong to protect those of us who live in states. They want the states' right to take it all back. Say, take it all back. And so say this struggle is not for our enemies. A civil war fight. This is a civil rights is a civil war fight. So that watch how this thing goes. More Americans died in the Civil War than died in any of the subsequent wars, World War I, II, Korean, or the like. That's a bone deep blood family fight that continues. So when the Tea Party in that element won in 2000, say the Tea Party won in 2010 because we didn't show up as we did in 2008. They didn't win with more numbers, they won because we had fewer numbers. In the tug of war, you drop the rope. In the tug of war, you drop the rope, you lose. Many of us, for whatever reason, many of us dropped that rope and they snatched. And so now the first item on their table was not an attack on blacks. I want to hear this real good now. Come on now. It was Wisconsin. Attack on workers. Workers' right to collective bargaining. I'm glad it happened there because if it had been in Milwaukee, they could have dismissed it as a black struggle. Right. But this was Madison's space. Basic public education attacked by states' rights. Workers' right to collective bargain. When workers have collective bargain money, they finance campaigns. So attack on organized labor. So on one hand, corporations can be seen as an individual, and labor must be seen as the enemy of the people. But this thing is about attacking collective bargaining. How is our strength? Our strength has come through public employment and collective bargaining. The basic black middle class are public workers. We are teachers and postal workers, government workers. We are workers, we are doctors and lawyers whose clients are teachers and public workers. So we are ministers whose church members are public workers. So when they cut back on big government, they come back and say big government is us by another name. Say big government is us by another name. Be clear on what your name is. So if you cut back on government, you cut back on policemen, teachers, firemen, staff of council people. Cutting back on recreation. You cut back on the class whose doctors and whose lawyers look like you. So it has that dimension. It has the dimension of attacking collective. Dr. King died. His last fight was fighting for collective bargaining. The right of garbage workers to have collective bargaining. The individual garbage man had no power, but collectively they had the power to get a contract. That's right. Second issue is they came around the issue of public education. So collective bargaining, public education. I'm going to talk about all of it now, but when their reaction to Little Rock, their reaction